they're going to take forever.
Each year, up to 500,000 people are caught crossing the southern U.S. border illegally. So Donald Trump's administration promised a crackdown.
I have put in place a zero-tolerance policy. If you cross the border unlawfully, then we will prosecute you.
In the month that followed, hundreds of parents were deported without their children.
Revolt! Revolt! Revolt!
But the outcry forced an embarrassing turnaround.
You're going to have a lot of happy people.
Word of Trump's change of heart spread quickly to Central America. This is the story of two women, one traveling through Mexico, bound for the U.S., desperate to find a safe life with her children.
Los agarraron a tiro, o sea, en la calle.
The other has already made the journey, but was deported back to Guatemala without her daughters.
¿Cómo estás, princesa?
And is now fighting simply to bring them both home. It's the cheapest ticket to the United States. A network of Mexican cargo trains whose extra load are all chasing an American dream. For those with no money, this is the only choice. 20-year-old Dunia is from Honduras. She is 6 months pregnant and is traveling with her 4-year-old son.
Lleva miedo.
While her husband Marlon keeps watch. Back home, they say local gangs tried to kill them when they took over their neighborhood. Soon after, the news came that Donald Trump was no longer separating parents from their children at the US border. So they decided it was time to head north. We joined them in southern Mexico as they began their dangerous stop-start journey. We don't know what happened. Sometimes immigration stops the train, and sometimes also the Mexican cartels who charge a fee to the migrants. It's well known. They make millions out of it. This time was a false alarm, and the train started up again. They still have over 1,000 miles to travel. The train carried Dunia and her family as far as Chiapas, southern Mexico. To reach the US border, they will have to catch at least 5 more. They left Honduras over a week ago.
Mire, arriesgando mi mujer embarazada, mi hijo, mi vida, todo. Podemos perder la vida en este viaje. Nosotros no somos animales, somos humanos. Únicamente lo que los distancia que somos de diferentes países.
It's almost 4 a.m., but La Bestia, or the Beast as it is known, has no timetable. So no one wants to miss it. All these people are going up north to the United States. They are running away from poverty and violence in Central America. Entire families, you have children as young as 3. They have slept just 2 hours.
Siento miedo montarme en el tren.
¿Por qué te da miedo?
Por los cosas que van a hacer. Que han muerto mucha gente, pero eso me da miedo.
Here they must board the Beast while it's moving. But it's going too fast for them to jump on. With no money, this young family has no choice but to walk 10 hours to a migrant shelter in the next town.
3 días estar acá más. Sin dinero, muere el hambre acá.
And tempers are fraying.
Yo lo hubiese agarrado, el primer vagón que te mirara, que yo lo hubiese agarrado.
¡Qué basura! ¿Cómo los va a ir el burro?
Yo te dije, montémoslos.
Eso es de ser confiado, ¿no?
The shelter is over 50 miles away. Dunia is worried she may not make it. ¿Tú crees que vas a poder caminar todo lo que te falta. They have only the trucks as a guide. We join them for the walk. A vanishing day in 35-degree heat. But 13 hours later, all finally made it.
¿Cómo estás?
Cansada, mucha hambre, muy sudada vengo. Me duelen los pies.
After days on the road, this refuge provides a rare moment of calm. And for Dunia and her family, it's the first hot meal in a long time. It is also a rare safe place for young women making this journey alone. Everyone here is heading for the US, but they are still not even halfway there.
El salto de agua vas para Tierra Blanca, ¿no?
Hay que cruzar todo aquí.
Almost 300 miles south, in Guatemala City, others who have already made this dangerous journey now find themselves back where they started. Up to 5 planes land here every day from the US, carrying the deported.
Bienvenidos a Guatemala. Demos gracias a Dios de estar sentados donde están. La verdad que es una bendición. No todos corren con la misma suerte. Así que
Most here don't feel very lucky. This year, Trump's zero-tolerance policy deported hundreds of parents back to Central America without their children. In June, he signed an executive order to end it. But most families are still waiting to be reunited.
¿Cómo estás, princesa?
Gredis was one of them.
¿Cómo estás, bebé?
She also rode La Bestia to reach the United States, but was picked up for crossing the US border illegally, then deported back to Guatemala 9 months ago without her 2 daughters.
¿Qué estabas haciendo?
Gracie and Jennifer are just 3 and 5 years old.
Bien, ¿estás bien?
They are being held in a detention center in Texas.
Ay, qué hermosa estás, bebé. Ay, está rica tu leche.
The Trump administration says parents like Gredis knew the risks.
¿Cómo has estado, mija?
After she was deported, she didn't speak to her children for 2 months.
Ay, sí, yo también quiero estar contigo, mija, te extraño mucho.
Now she gets 1 phone call a week.
Nena, ¿por qué no quieres hablar, mija? Jennifer,
She says both girls have grown increasingly distant.
acércate, mija, te quiero contar algo. Adiós, bebé, te quiero mucho, mija.
Gredis has no idea if she will ever see her daughters again.
Adiós, mija.
Back in Mexico, Dunia and her family are now just 500 miles from the US border and are ready to catch their next train. Marlon jumps on the first carriage to ask the driver to stop, leaving Dunia alone with Marlon Jr. Her husband's plan doesn't seem to be working. So a kind stranger helps her son onto the train. But it's still moving too fast for Dunia.
El niño se me fue. Adelante.
After Dunia chases the train for 10 minutes, it finally stops.
No, venga bien, me tumbé, casi me mato.
Yo pensé que se había bajado otra persona a ayudarle.
Marlon Jr. is confused and terrified. We try to help Dunia find her husband. With no sign of him, she finds space where she can. Then he turns up.
No, ahorita lo detuvieron para que van a cargar. Yo vengo de arriba, de la mera máquina.
Vos me das con ese chugüimba, te vale
No, yo le digo a parar.
Dame tu pay. Que tengo ganas de orinar, vamos a ver si ya lo voy a abortar. Yo por eso le dije a este maje que vendieras un mierda de casa basura que tenía y que me mandara en bus a mí. Pero por andar de perro, él no ha orinado. Me va a caer ahí.
It's been a long morning, but the family have to keep going. The train crosses into Tabasco State. Dunia and her husband haven't spoken all day. As the light fades, a moment of nighttime normality, while the faithful appeal for salvation.
El Padre, el Hijo y el Espíritu Santo cuidándonos en este camino.
¿Cómo te sientes ahora que se está haciendo de noche?
Un sueño. Pero no me duermo porque si me duermo me puedo matar. Mis ganas de llegar a Estados Unidos, arriesgado hasta mi vida, mi bebé que viene en camino, mi hijo y todo, pero sé que lo lograré. Quiero que nazca en Estados Unidos para que pueda tener una mejor vida. Y durante haya vida, hay esperanza.
Like Dunia, Gredis also wanted her children to grow up in the US instead of here in Guatemala. Now she just wants them to come home. So she's come to the capital to push her government for answers.
Fui deportada de Estados Unidos hace 9 meses, en septiembre. Me separaron de mis niñas y ahorita mis niñas están allá en Texas, en un albergue. Quisiera poder hablar con alguien que sepa sobre el tema o sobre el caso, por favor. Ahorita pues nadie me puede atender sobre este tema. Ok, pues muchas gracias. Sí.
She has few options but to wait.
Me hicieron firmar todos los papeles, todo estaba en inglés. Yo no sé hablar inglés y únicamente me dijeron que pues era para mi deportación. Ya después me dijeron que no podía pedir asilo ni nada, que me iban a separar de mis niñas. Yo pregunté si había alguna forma de que eso no pasara, de que no fuera posible que me separaran de ellas, pero me dijeron que no, porque yo tenía que recibir un castigo.
The US government has begun to reunite families, but only recently admitted that almost 500 people were deported without their children. Gredis is just one of them. Monterrey is only 2 hours from the US border. After 6 weeks traveling, Dunia and Marlon have made it to northern Mexico. Dunia and her son will hand themselves over to US authorities at the border and pray they won't be separated. Now almost 8 months pregnant, Dunia and Marlon Jr. will apply for asylum and think they have more chance if they go alone.
Despedirlos para siempre. Yo sé que algún día la vamos a coronar, vamos a llegar a Estados Unidos con vida.
A few weeks ago, Dunia's brother was picked up by Mexican authorities trying to make the same journey. They deported him back to Honduras. Yesterday, Dunia found out that he was murdered by the same gang who had threatened her.
La verdad se sufre mucho en este camino.
He sufrido mucho. Más con la muerte de mi hermano, supuestamente. Mi madre también no está sufriendo. Y necesito que me ayudes. Te quiero mucho y cuídate.
Cuídate, Moy. Adiós, papi. Ya lo miramos en la frontera, hijo. Si Dios lo permite. Claro, no llores. Es duro, hijo. Yo sé que es duro, pero así tiene que ser. Sé fuerte. Ya los miramos, hijo. Adiós, hijo.